The first letter of St. Paul to the Thessalonians is the earliest of all his writings, an intimate and heartfelt message from the apostle to one of his beloved communities. Written around AD 50 to 51, this letter shines with encouragement, gratitude, and hope. Paul writes to the new believers in Thessalonica who were facing persecution, reminding them to remain steadfast in faith, to love one another, and to live in joyful readiness for the coming of Christ. Let us journey into this powerful letter of love, endurance, and eternal hope. The Church in Thessalonica. Thessalonica, a busy port city in Macedonia, was one of the key centers of Paul's missionary journeys. After preaching there for only a few weeks, Paul had to flee because of fierce opposition. Yet, despite their trials, the believers remained faithful. Paul's letter expresses his deep gratitude for their perseverance and their witness to Christ. He praises their strong faith, active love, and steadfast hope, a model for all Christian communities. Faith, love, and hope in Christ. Paul reminds the Thessalonians that the Christian life is built on three pillars: faith, love, and hope. Faith anchors us in God's truth. Love expresses itself in service and compassion. Hope looks forward to Christ's glorious return. Paul encourages them to live quietly, work diligently, and support one another as they wait for the Lord. He reminds them that true holiness is shown not by fear, but by joyful trust in God's promise. Hope beyond death. One of the most touching parts of this letter is Paul's teaching about the coming of the Lord. He comforts the Thessalonians who grieve for those who have died, assuring them that in Christ, death is not the end. When the Lord returns, the dead in Christ will rise first, and those who are still alive will be caught up with them in glory. Therefore, Paul says, encourage one another with these words. It is not a message of fear, but of radiant hope. Children of light. Paul urges the believers to live as children of light, awake and watchful. They do not belong to the darkness of despair, but to the light of Christ's kingdom. He encourages them to wear the breastplate of faith and love and the helmet of hope, standing firm against temptation and discouragement. To live in readiness means to walk daily with Christ in honesty, prayer, and mutual encouragement. Rejoice always. As Paul closes his letter, he gives one of the simplest yet most profound guides to Christian living. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances. These short commands sum up the joyful heart of the gospel. When Christ dwells in us, even suffering can become a place of grace. Paul ends with a blessing. May the God of peace sanctify you completely. Why it matters today? In our modern world, where anxiety and uncertainty are constant, Paul's words bring peace and direction. He reminds us to focus not on fear of the future, but on faithful living in the present, rejoicing, praying, and giving thanks daily. Christ's promise of return fills our lives with hope, strength, and purpose. The first letter to the Thessalonians reminds us that Christian hope is not passive waiting, it is active living. It means serving others with love, enduring trials with faith, and looking toward the day of Christ with joyful expectation. May we, too, live as children of light, faithful, steadfast, and ready for the Lord's coming.